Welcome, Rose. I'm so happy you're here.
And me.
I discovered you on Substack, as I'm discovering many writers on Substack, and I was intrigued by both your publication name. I might not even say this right. Memoirist. I can never say that.
It's
Memoirist
it,
in you say it.
memoirist in the museum. It's kind of a mouthful, the
It is a
memoirist.
mouthful.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks beautiful written out.
Oh, does it? Oh, that's good.
Yes, I
That's,
love it. And then I saw that you have a book coming out.
yeah.
And by the time you're listening to this, listeners, it will be live, so you will be able to purchase it. I ate everything but the napkins. How I overcame overeating. I was intrigued by that title. I'd love to start there with your memoir. What was the spark that led you to be like, I need to write this book?
Well, I didn't actually plan to write the book. As with many things in my haphazard life, when COVID came along, I took a memoir writing course. I didn't even think, oh, I've got anything interesting to say as far as my life story. But I thought, I used to work as a freelance writer in Canada. And I had got out of writing for many, many years. And I thought, I think I'd like to get back and start writing again. So I thought, well, this will just sort of spur me on and it'll be interesting and kind of fun. And the woman who was teaching it, Alison Waring, was very appealing, and she was Canadian and I'm Canadian. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll see what she has to say. And then I thought, well, what can I write about? And then I thought, well, there was that time when I went to Australia and started overeating. And then I came back to Canada and I stopped overeating. I suppose that's kind of interesting. I had some interesting adventures before that, going to live in the Arctic and where I met my first love, who was a fur trapper at the time when I met him. Let me see. So he was a fur trapper, but then he decided to stop doing that because he accidentally got stabbed in a knife fight. And he thought, oh, this is a bit too dangerous. I'm going to go and work in the gold mine because mining isn't dangerous at all.
No.
But where we lived, it's in the Arctic Circle, in the Northwest Territories, a town called Yellowknife, yellow for the gold. And the main industry is two gold mines. And so he went to work for one of the gold mines.
Wow.
And that particular gold mine, instead of giving the men their money in their hand, they sent the money to the bank. So that everyone who worked at that giant mines had a bank account and they would come in and either get all the money then or they would add to it or whatever. And I was working at that particular bank and that's how we met.
Oh, wow.
He was gorgeous.
You're the first person I've met who lived that far north. I'm originally from Toronto. I grew up there. And
I
I live,
see. Yeah.
I live
Yeah.
in Florida now, but I never met
Listen,
anyone who lived in Yellowknife.
yeah. At the time, I was actually transferred from the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Calgary. And I'd heard that the bank would transfer young men who were going to be bank managers at some point in their banking career.
Yeah.
They would transfer them around to make sure that they had a broad experience of various people and various situations and whatnot. And every single young man that I worked with or heard of was scared to death that they were going to be sent to the Northwest Territories because it's really, really far north. And in the winter, it's really cold. They just thought it was the end of the world. And I thought, well, does that sound exciting? So I asked if I could go. They had never sent a woman to the Northwest Territories before, never. But for some reason, they sent me. So I went.
Wow.
Thrilled to bits. But when that was my first airplane ride as well, when I got on the airplane to fly to Yellowknife and noticed that half of the airplane was passengers and the other half was mail sacks, which were all strapped down.
Wow.
So I was riding with the cargo.
Wow.
Yeah. So there we are. And my first day of work, I think, was the 1st of November, something like that, pretty much in the dead of winter.
Wow. That was cold.
No different than growing up in the prairies where it's cold all winter long as well.
True. I get that. So that was, I guess, one of your big stops. And then it sounds like in your memoir, you cover all these experiences. So it sounds like you overcame overeating. And
That was much later.
okay. And then you decided to write the book. So you mentioned it was COVID, you took this class. How long
Mhm.
after did you overcome or have this transformation before you started writing your story?
Oh, you mean the overeating?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I was 21 when I left Australia, and I was overeating in Australia. That would be 1960s. I think in 1969, it was when I left. So yes, I've not been an overeater for over 50 years.
Wow.
So that's my qualification.
Yeah. I was going to say that's, you clearly know what it takes to stop.
I don't know if I would say I know. I discovered.
Mm.
I accidentally found the right path after hitting many of the wrong paths.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that journey at all?
Well, I overcame overeating because I discovered what caused me to overeat. And what caused me to overeat was the fact that I had gone off to Australia, really like no plan whatsoever, just barely enough money beyond the airfare. And if things hadn't fallen into place, I would have had the world's most expensive weekend. Honestly, the things I had no idea where I was going to live, what I was going to do. I thought, well, I'll stay at the YWCA. This is what I thought when I got off the airplane.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a YWCA in Sydney at the time. But anyway, so the reason I started overeating when I was in Australia is because I was frightened that I would never get out of Australia. I was starting to miss my parents. I was starting to be concerned that I wanted to get back to my native country. And partially the reason I got so in a tizzy about food in general, well, I turned to food as my compensation because I didn't do drugs and I didn't drink because my dad had been an alcoholic. So that was definitely not going to be bad. And I couldn't turn to wild sex with various men because I was still a virgin and I was supposed to be a good girl. So I thought, oh, well, that's out. So I turned to food. But part of the reason why I turned to food was because my father had left Norway and emigrated to Canada. And I could be wrong about this, but I always thought he never intended to stay in Canada. He intended to go back to Norway, like when he'd made his fortune or whatever. And the reason we couldn't go back to Norway was because he met my mother and my mother had me. And so therefore he couldn't abandon his child. My parents were always quite mismatched with each other, but individually, both of them absolutely adored me. They thought I was wonderful.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's kind of what happened.
I'd love to hear more about your writing process. What did it look
Okay.
like to get the draft out? How long did it take? Did you have a
Oh,
daily writing habit? What did it look like?
yeah. I'm quite good at having a daily writing habit. And probably because I used to freelance when I lived in Canada. I freelanced for about 10 years. So I write relatively fast. And I also write relatively short because my writing was magazines, generally speaking. So I would do
Mhm.
magazine articles, which are about 1,000, 2,000 words. That's it. And they have a very fast churn rate. You write something and they say, yes, okay, and they pay you. And then about 3 or 4 months later, then you see it. You think, oh, yeah. Oh, I
Yeah,
love
that was
that.
fun.
Because by that time, you're on to something else.
Right.
Yeah. So writing a book was pretty darn challenging because a book is much longer than 2,000 words. And I was really debating for the longest time, should I go with traditional publishing or should I go self-publishing? And I thought from what I had heard and what I was told that to get your book published by a traditional publishing company when you're an unknown and it's a memoir is really almost impossible. And plus, if you do, it will take a long time because it'll have to go through several edits. and it'll have to do this. And then your book has to go into their schedule. And won't necessarily have any say over the title, and you won't necessarily have any say over the book cover. And all of that, I thought, ooh, that doesn't sound too good. And plus I thought, I could be dead by the time they get the book out. So I went with self-publishing.
I'm a fan of self-publishing as well.
Good.
Yeah. So you already had a writing habit because you were writing magazine articles. So what did the book writing look like? Did you write every day? What parts were challenging about that?
Well, I think the most challenging thing was other people's opinions. Because when I wrote magazine articles, generally speaking, if there was any editing to be done, the editor at the magazine would edit it, and that was the end of it. They wouldn't even consult me about it, unless it was something major. I remember one magazine article, the editor inserted the word that a quilt is like a pastiche of fabric. Well, I didn't know what a pastiche was. So I had to look it up. And here it is under my name. So I found it difficult to stretch the story from a single incident when I was stealing food from my flatmates into a book of 50,000, 60,000 words. And even say 60,000 words would be a bit short for a book. But anyway, I pushed it to 50,000 words, and then I decided, I'm going to self-publish, so I don't have to push it.
Right.
So I can, some of this stuff doesn't need to be in here. It's only to make it go a bit further. I was trying to water it down to get it to the 50,000 words. The book ended up being 44,000 words with 16 photos in it.
Nice.
Yeah, if it looks as good when it's in my hand as it looks on the screen, that because it's at the moment, it's just going through Ingram Sparks and Amazon's vetting process. But if it looks as good, yes, I'll be quite pleased with it because the formatting was really good. I was really pleased about that.
Yeah, it's always so exciting to see it come to life. The first time you hold your book.
Well, I've not had that experience yet.
I know. Just be ready. It is exciting.
Oh, okay.
I forget where you mentioned this, but you said you're in the final stages. Amazon and Ingram have it now. And you also mentioned seemingly endless tweaks.
I probably mentioned endless tweaks when it was being edited at the self-publishers.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't exactly edited because I had already paid an editor to do the editing. And then I sent the edited manuscript to the publishing company. And because I had done that, the self-publishing company were allowing people to bring their work in. What they really wanted you to do was have it edited in-house. So they would charge you for that. And then they would charge you for actually producing it as a book. And that would have been much faster, I think, because I had to do things like tell them where the photos were going to be and what the caption was going to be exactly. And then I had to do page breaks. And then I had done the page breaks wrong because I'd never done page breaks before. So that had to be redone. Luckily, the project manager discovered this and said, don't do it that way because it will come out wrong on the page when the book comes out. So we handed that one off at the pass. And it just seemed like there was always something more.
Yeah.
Even though, I guess in terms of book publishing, it was relatively fast because I gave them the manuscript to start working on the 23rd of February. And I will be having my book launch the 3rd of May. Yeah, I suppose it's relatively quick, but it certainly didn't feel quick to me.
I bet. So the endless tweets weren't necessarily with the writing. They weren't telling you to change things in there.
The thing with, because it's self-publishing, they presume that the way it's said is the way you want it to be. What they want to know is, do you want this photo here or do you want this photo there? Do you want to have your about the author's page? Do you want that in the back or do you want that in the front?
Mm-hmm.
And where do you want this image that we're giving you of the cover? Is it acceptable or should we change this? Things like the font. I think the font originally came out yellow with the subtitle in white. I think I went with that eventually. The first time, they showed me the cover page. The cover is gorgeous, but I don't know if it's going to be acceptable for the buying public. But the cover is from a painting of 3 fishes on a plate, and it's a lovely painting. And the first time they showed me it, the designer had put a fish hook coming down towards the fish. And it's sort of like, oh, these fish have been caught and overeating is catching this. And I thought this is really good. And then on the back page, they put a golden spoon and a golden fork. And I thought, well, this is really good. But then in subsequent ones, he took the fish hook off. I thought, oh. And then there was other things, was the spine, right? And it just seemed like there was just endless things to be okayed. And if you didn't do it right, or if you said to the publishing company, this is fine, we're going to go with this. And then the next day or the next couple of days, you think, oh, actually, I think I should change this, change that. No, you could, but they would certainly charge you £570 if you changed it.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of freaky. £570 if you changed the cover, £570 if you changed the text. So you had to be really, really, really sure it was okay before you went.
It's a lot of pressure.
I don't know if it was a lot of pressure if I put the pressure on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a nitpicky type person. I sort of get the overall look and think, oh yeah, that looks good. And then afterwards you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe it would be better if it was white instead of yellow font. Maybe it would be. Anyway, eventually, off it went.
Nice.
Anyway.
So you mentioned you like short pieces of writing. So magazine articles you mentioned were like 1,000-ish words, which some people would find long.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
I can write even shorter than that.
Right. Because you also mentioned 50 and 100-word stories of poetry.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I think when I first moved to the UK, there was a competition for a 50-word story through the Arbonne Foundation, which is a well-established writing foundation. And I entered that contest. I didn't win it, which is quite disappointing, but I did get in the anthology. So I was pleased about that, but I didn't know that there was such a thing as a 50-word story until then. But then after that, I found I liked doing it. I could knock them off. For me, it was sort of like a rhythm to it, like a limerick. You know, a limerick goes da 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 da. And to a certain extent, these 50-word stories follow that kind of, or you could make them follow that kind of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So you could think of something else. Oh, do you want to hear one?
I'd love to.
Oh, okay. I don't think I made a title for this one yet, but anyway. When she turned 60, Dina had a facelift. What the hell, she thought. I feel like 40. I might as well look it. There were consequences. Marriage to a much younger man, riotous sex, and spending her pension money on spa treatment. All in all, a good return on investment.
I love that. That is so good. And so fun. It's such a creative outlet. And I think you share these on Substack, right? Some of them?
I haven't shared many of them. I think I might have shared one or two.
Okay.
Remember?
Maybe that's where I saw it.
I wouldn't mind doing a book of them, but it would have to be, I don't know what shelf on a bookshelf would fit. So anyway, something for the future.
Let's finish this one first.
Yes. Now we have what we call marketing.
Yes. I've heard it equated to you just ran a marathon, and at the end of the marathon, they hand you your medal, and then they say, okay, now go do it again.
Oh, there. Well, it's a different type of marathon. Actually, yes. I'm quite looking forward to it, but it's different. There's so much to learn, really. There's so much to learn about it. And I haven't really studied marketing or whatever, but practically every writer I've spoken to and any of the writers groups I've been in, they would sooner have their eyes gouged out than do book marketing.
Right.
But I think if you don't do the marketing, you might as well just open a window and shout, "Hey, I published a book. Come and buy it." It's about that effective,
Yeah.
particularly with the vast amount of books that are published. You got to do everything you can to get people to see it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And who
Yeah.
better to promote your book than you? You
Oh,
will have other people promote it too because people will read it
yeah,
and be
yeah,
like, "You have to read Rose's book." So
that would
start
be
it and
nice.
it spreads.
Well, that would be nice if other people said that. But yeah, at the moment, I'm going to have a book signing at our local library on the 23rd of May. That's a start. And I'm talking about it on Substack as well, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was going to say
although,
that's good marketing.
it is good, but I'm a bit concerned that I might be overdoing it.
I don't think so. A rule about marketing, because I've been in that world for quite a while. Once
Mhm.
you're sick of hearing yourself say it 3 more times.
Oh, really?
Th-
Oh,
Because
that's good.
not
Go
everyone
for it.
reads everything you write. Not everyone hears every message. Just
Mhm.
keep
Yeah, yeah.
sharing the word.
Yeah, I'm trying to continually share it, but in a different way each time, so it doesn't sound like, "Oh gosh, there she goes again."
No,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. That's when people start to pay attention. When you're
Yeah.
at that point of, am I bothering people? Am I saying this too much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, I don't want to say be really pushy about it and say, "Hey, buy my book. I really need you to buy my book." It'd be nice if you buy my book. I'm trying to think of other more approaching it at different angles, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So are you enjoying writing on Substack?
Oh, I love writing on Substack. Substack has kept me going, really, at various points. Because actually, the book should have been done much, much sooner than it was, but I just kind of abandoned it for a couple of years because I received some criticism, which, well, it sort of cut me off at the knees, really. But in a way, I should never have the writing out there for others to see because at that particular point in time, I was sick to death of it. So when they said, "Oh, your book, you should cut it by a third," remember how difficult it was to get those
Right.
words there anyway. And they said, "Oh, a third of that should just be cut away." But yeah, I dropped out of the group and I just put it in the cupboard and didn't even look at it for, well, at least a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's unfortunate. What was the driver or spark to bring you back to it after you abandoned it?
Oh, I can't really remember. Other than I suppose it's like you've been walking with a stone in your shoe for a long time. And
Mm.
then finally you decide, I think I'll stop and I'll fix that. And even now, even though the book is practically at the final hurdle, I have to think maybe I should have done it better. Maybe I should have had a better structure to it. Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done that. And I think, but really, I just had to let it go in its imperfect state. I just had to let it go, or it was just driving me crazy.
Yeah.
I thought, just go, leave me, let me do something else. Anyway,
I get it. Or it can just take forever. You could tweak and tweak
well,
and
yeah,
never move on to the next one.
that's it exactly. There's always a different way of saying anything. And that's why writing is one of those, it's not like painting a picture where you make the tulips red and you put it in the frame and people look at it and they say, "Oh, there's a painting of red tulips." With writing, you write there's red tulips and somebody will come along and say, "Oh, maybe you should make those daffodils.
Yeah.
Why don't you make your tulips yellow? Wouldn't it be better if you had them in a silver frame rather than the gold?"
People.
And well, I've even heard of authors who have had their books published and the book is now, like, say, in the library, and they go to the library and get their book and they're writing in the margins how it should have been when it's really too late. Like, you've got to let go of this thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm curious if you've thought about this yet. How will you celebrate when your book is released?
Well, I've had one celebration when I can't remember it. I think it was when I got the deal or decided that I was going to do self-publishing, and it was sending the manuscript off. I think that was the day of the quote celebration. And the celebration stems back to when I was a teenager. And my mother's friend who lived in Chicago, they used to come and visit us on the farm in Saskatchewan in Canada. And she was absolutely wonderful. Her name was Lee. I've changed her name in the book, but her name was Lee. And she was a very large woman, very glamorous, always wore lovely little dresses and earrings and all that. On our farm, there's nowhere to see that you've got earrings and nice little slippers and your makeup's done and all that. That's city stuff, you know. But her husband was absolutely adoring of her. And he'd say, "Oh, you're just like a goddess." And she'd say, "Oh, honey, that's so nice of you. That's so sweet of you." In sort of a Mae West type of way. Lee taught me how to make a grilled cheese sandwich, which I had never done before. And we had this grilled cheese sandwich with a bottle of Coca-Cola. And that was the first time I'd ever had it. And I just thought it was absolutely marvelous. So anytime there's a big milestone, it's a grilled cheese sandwich with a bottle of Coca in honor of my friend Lee, who has died many years ago.
Oh, that is so fun and so sweet. I love that.
Clearly was.
One final question I have for you. I'd love to hear someone who is thinking about writing a memoir. They may have many of them. What would you say to them?
Ooh, I guess I would say be prepared for how you're going to feel. Some of your memories that we'll be going over won't be necessarily the most delightful thing, and that means you'll be reliving them. I think for myself, I wouldn't have written my memoir if my parents were still alive. And actually, there's nobody in the book that, other than my husband, he's in the book, but I'm writing about who is that I know anything about anymore. The people I lived with in Australia, I've lost touch with them, and it was years ago, so I'm not worried about them. But once it was all said and done and dusted, I did feel quite guilty about some of the things I said about my parents because of, they say individually, they just thought I was wonderful. And in many ways, they gave me a wonderful childhood, but it was quite, well, I was the child of an alcoholic parent. So obviously that changes things considerably. But the one thing I did write about to describe what it was like after the memoir was done, I said it was like standing outside on a cold day in your underwear and having people look at you. So there's a great deal of vulnerability in it. And I think if I had really thought it through, how vulnerable it might be to have a book out, particularly a book about your life when I've not told most people about this part of my life, would make you feel really quite exposed. But the thing is, any memoir, you don't have to publish it. You can write it just for yourself. You can do it whenever you like. If you want to write a revenge memoir about how awful people in your family are, you can do that and just never publish it. It'll be for you. And it'll be your opportunity to talk back to them. But if you do publish, there is that, for me anyway, that feeling of being exposed.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. And the reliving pieces. You think you've healed, and then you're reminded, oh no, there's a little bit more healing to do here.
Uh, well, there, most of mine, I do feel that I healed from. I mean, I had a very traumatic experience in Australia, which probably contributed to my overeating as well, because I was attacked by a burglar when I was in my bed. And it was only because there was other people at home and when I was yelling and screaming, and they said, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" And so he fled. But I believe, or I think that was probably when I started to become, I was looking for a way out of that, how to overcome that complete anxiety of how will I ever get home?
Yeah.
which is what I wrote in the book. How can I get home? How can I get home? How can I get home? And also the girls I lived with in the house in Australia were telling me stories about their boyfriends and how they weren't treating them well and all the rest of this. And some fellow was supposed to meet a girl and he'd say, he didn't show up and he'd say, oh yeah, but it's such a beaut day. So I just went to the beach with me mates instead. And that was supposed to be, that was romance. And I thought, oh my God, I don't want that.
No. Wow. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. And terrible.
It was a terrible thing at the time, yeah. But as I say, many of the things that happened to me were either frightening or terrible or whatever, but I got over them. I mean, I wasn't killed. I wasn't so many bad things that could have happened to me. Didn't. Or it was more of a close call than an actual traumatic event. I mean, it's a traumatic event to be
Of course.
attacked, but I didn't die.
Yeah.
He ran. So therefore, and I know I didn't have anything like counseling or anything like that. But,
I'm glad you had people home
yes.
and
Yes.
he fled.
But anyway, and then I started that sort of internal washing machine inside of you where you think, what can I do? What can I do? How can I overcome this? And food became the easiest and the most socially acceptable thing to do.
Yeah.
So I just ate and ate and ate and ate. Although, I'll tell you this, one of the things that one of the people who offered their opinion on the book I was talking to about the book said, you can't really say that you're an overeater because you only gained 40 pounds. So I thought, yeah, well, I gained 40 pounds in 5 months. So that was quite a lot. And it was so much that it changed my physique from how I was when I first arrived.
Yeah. People and their feedback, like you mentioned that you realized it was probably too soon in the stage of writing to share your story. People need to, one, like there's a couple things at play. Being ready for feedback and knowing that you're going to get feedback that is later going to become just bad advice that you file away. Like, no, we're not doing that. But a lot of it are things that you're not really even ready for. It's like,
I think if I hadn't had that 10 years of writing as a freelancer and people actually paying you money to do it, that gave and does give me a lot of confidence in my own judgment in terms of, if an editor saying, oh, I don't think that's right. You shouldn't say that. And I'm thinking, no, I think I do want to say that. Thanks.
yeah. A lot of people would have quit.
Yes. And I
not kept
did.
it up.
I did
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
But then, as I say, it was the stone in the shoe type of scenario. So I don't know if I voluntarily went back and picked it up again or if it just pushed me to do it.
Yeah. Well, the important part was you came back. You finished it.
Yes, I did.
I'm very excited to read it when it is out. So, Rose, I want to thank you for being here today. And
thank you.
we will link to your Substack and your book.
Thank you.
I Ate Everything But the Napkins. Will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Rose.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.